June 11th, Tuesday. We have night 341, reading Arabian Nights, night 341. Morning now, Dawn. She heard that book off from what she'd been allowed to say. Damn, I know it's the 331st, 41st night. She continued, I have heard, O fortunate king, that the poor man, on seeing this, was filled with doubt and bewilderment owing to the splendor of the building and the servants and retainers. He hung back, bewildered, anxious, afraid for himself, until he took seat alone and far from the others where no one could see him. When he was sitting there, a man led in 4 hunting dogs in coats of various kinds of silks and brocades, with golden collars around their necks, together with silver chains. He tied them up each of them in a place of its own, and then went off and came back, bringing them each a golden bowl full of magnificent food, which he set down for them before going out and leaving them. And then, in the extremity of his hunger, the poor man, seeing the food, wanted to approach one of the dogs and share its meal, but fear held him back. Then one of them noticed him, and realizing the state that he was in, thanks to inspiration from Almighty God, it drew back from its bowl and gestured to him. He came forward and ate his fill, after which he was about to leave, when the dog indicated that he should take the bowl and the food in it for himself, pushing it over to him with its paw. He took it up, left the house, and went off without being followed. After this, I thought it was like a golden bowl. Golden bowl. After this, he went to another city, where he sold the bowl, and with the money that he got for it, he bought merchandise, which he took back to his own town and sold, so clearing his debts. He became rich, prosperous, and fortunate, but after staying where he was for some time, he told himself that he should go back to the city where the owner of the dog's bowl lived, and bring him a suitably handsome present. Seems, do you think the dogs can do that? Share?
Yeah. You see, they got good dogs, but then.
They had good dogs?
And how they dressed and like today.
To repay him for the bowl that the dog had given him. So he chose an appropriate present, and taking with him the price of the bowl, he set out on his journey. After having traveled for a number of days and nights, he reached the city, entered it to try to find the dog's owner. He walked around the streets till he got to the house, but there was nothing there but ruin and desolation, with crows cawing mournfully. Everything had changed beyond recognition. With a palpitating heart he recited, the rooms are empty of their hidden treasures, as hearts are empty of learning and piety. The valley has changed, its gazelles and its sand hills are not those I used to know. He added, Suda's phantom came to arouse me just before dawn in the desert while my companion slept, but when I woke to look for it, I saw nothing but emptiness, as she herself was far away. Looking at the ruins and seeing clearly the action of time that had left behind only traces of what had once been there to see, he did not need to be told what had happened, and turning away, he caught sight of a poor man whose state would cause men to shudder and move even solid rock to pity. He accosted him and asked, "What has time done to the owner of this place? Where are his shining moons and his gleaming stars, and what has happened to his mansion, of which only the walls are left?" The poor man replied, "The owner is the wretched man you see before you, lamenting his fate. Don't you know that in the words of the apostle of God there is a lesson to be heeded, and a warning for whoever will heed it?" He said, "My God bless him and gave him." He said, "May God bless him and give him peace." Quote, "It is the practice of Almighty God not to raise up anything in this world without then bringing it down." Mm, mm. It is the practice of Almighty God not to raise up anything in this world without then bringing it down. The reason for this, if you ask for one, is that there is nothing strange in the reversal of fortune. This was my mansion which I established, built and owned. I possessed shining moons and lived in luxury and splendor with slave girls of dazzling beauty. But then time's balance turned against me. It robbed me of my servants, my wealth, reducing me to the state in which I have settled, and afflicting me with calamities that it had kept sealed. But there must be a reason for your question. So stop standing here and wonder and tell me what it is. The visitor, who was painfully distressed, told him the whole story and added, "I have brought you a desirable present, as well as the price of the golden bowl that I took, for it was this that turned me from a poor man to a rich man, allowing me to live in prosperity rather than poverty, and removing the cares that oppressed me." The other shook his head, wept, groaned, and lamented before saying, "Man, I think you must be mad, for this is not something that a sensible person would suggest. If one of my dogs gave you a golden bowl, how could I take it back? It would be strange indeed for me to reclaim the generous gift of a dog, even if I were in the direst of straits. By God, I shall not take as much as a fingernail's worth of anything from you. So go back where you came from, in health and safety." The visitor then kissed his feet and left, praising him and reciting the following lines as he took his leave. Quote, "The people and the dogs have gone. Peace be on both the people and the dogs. God knows better." The story is told that in the port of Alexandria there was a wali named Husan al-Din. One night, when he was sitting in his courtroom, a soldier came to him and said, "Master, I want you to know that I entered the city tonight and went to such and such a khan, where I slept for a third of a night. When I woke, I found that my saddlebag had been slit open and a purse with 1,000 dinars in it stolen." He had hardly finished speaking before the wali sent for his officers and told them to collect everyone in the khan and imprison them until morning. When morning came, he sent for the instruments of torture and brought in the prisoners in the presence of the soldier whose money had been stolen. He was about to torture them when a man made his way through the people and stood before him. Seemed to emanate two stories in here. End of night 341. We have the story of the golden bowl from the dog. We had the dog and the bowl. The reversal of fortune. Night 341 from the Arabian Nights. The 1001 Nights. Malcolm Lyons, Penquin Classics. Night 341.